What's up guys, this is Corey with the Dirt City Gym, back with another deck profile for y'all. So today we're back with another budget build. So if any of y'all paid any attention to the ARG celebrations over in North Carolina this weekend, you would have noticed that Slug ended up doing really well. Personally, that was super surprising to me. I wasn't expecting Slug at all. That wasn't even in my... If you've given me, maybe give you like a top 15 leader list, Slug probably wouldn't have even cracked that. So it's kind of exciting to see. It's always great to see new leaders kind of come into the fray, especially old new leaders. You know, Slug never really saw play before, but now it's getting a little bit of life after the new cards released in Destroyer Kings. So it got me really thinking about trying to come up with a budget version of a Slug deck. So we're going to kind of get into that. As always with our budget builds, you know, we're trying to keep it under the $50 mark. We're really cutting it close with the $50 this time, but we're able to manage to get right in there. So let's get over to the list. Alright, so first off, as you notice, it says average price $21. This is not a $21 deck. Sometimes it takes a little bit for the new Destroyer Kings cards to get updated on everything with the TCG player price guide and everything. So right now, the Agent of Destruction Lord Slug is not priced in this list, but those are running about $8 a piece. We're running 3 of those, so you're looking at $24 additional dollars. So right around $45 is really what I would expect for you to have to pay for this deck. But just kind of getting that out of the way, let's get into the list. Alright, so for those of you who do not know, Lord Slug has the ability on his front side, choose one card from your life and add it to your hand, and this card gains critical for the duration of the turn. And then he's awakened whenever your life is at 4 or less. You may draw 2 cards and flip this card over. So kind of an old school leader. He's really similar to set 1 blue Vegeta on the front side, even with the draw 2 cards. And then on the back, Lord Slug Gigantified. Auto whenever this card attacks, draw 1 card, pretty standard. Then activate main. Once per turn, you may place 1 card from your hand in the drop area, and then your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it in the drop area. So it's a 1-for-1 trade-off, which is really nice, especially with all the rest of the hand destruction that we're already doing in the list. You can kind of really put your opponent in awkward spots. Alright, so first up we've got 3 Furthering Destruction Champa. This again could be replaced as always with the Hidden Power East Supreme Kai. They generally run about the same price. I just always prefer Champa, especially right now, just because it's an auto double strike as opposed to a choose. So if you're not careful, you can get kind of caught up in weird rule sharking moments and things like that. So just keeping that in mind, but that's more than able to be swapped out. Alright, next up we've got 4 Newfound Power Son Gohan. So he's a 1-drop. Whenever he swings, you can take a life. He gets plus 10,000 in crit. So just again, great crit pressure. We're preventing our opponent from drawing cards. We're applying pressure early. It's a 1-drop. We're cutting ourselves even more. So all around, just really good stuff. Alright, next up we've got Wings, the Morale Booster. So this is one of the new cards from Destroyer Kings. He's a 1-drop 5k with Barrier. He's got the permanent. You can only have up to 1 Wings in play in your battle area at one time. And then it reduces the energy cost of all Lord Slug cards in your hand by 1. So this is really what the Slug deck needed to... A, it's a barrier card, which Slug didn't really have access to before. And B, now it makes all of your other Slug cards cheaper, so everything's way, well more on curve, so you're doing a lot better getting your stuff out cheap. You've got a lot of bond effects with the Slug engine, so having that helps accelerate that, not only, but get into play with barrier is really nice. Alright, next up we've got 4 Defensive Stance Piccolo. So this is our super combo. Honestly, you have several options with super combo. Ideally, you'd always want to see the Defending Father Paragus here, but right now, Defending Father Paragus are running like $7 or $8 a piece, so that would really push us over that $50 mark, so I didn't want to really go into there right now. Now, as those start to come down, or if you already have access to those, maybe you've already bought the starter deck and everything like that, ideally that would be your preferred super combo. It's probably the best super combo in the game, because it's only restricted to a green leader, and you know, Slug qualifies for that, but this is if your life is at 4 or less. Super combo, it's always a 0-10k. We're going to awaken pretty quick with the deck, so we're never worried about getting to that 4 life threshold in order to have it live. Alright, next up we have Lord Slug, Return to Form. Alright, so he is a 2-drop, 1-drop with our Wings, but he's a 10k auto. Whenever you play this card, choose the 1 Slug army card from your deck with an energy cost of 4 or less and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So again, this is just an in-deck tutor. We're going to go find whatever card we need. We're thinning our deck. We're kind of setting us up for later in the game. Really strong. It's a 1-drop for 10k after the Wings comes into play, so it's really good as well. Alright, next up we've got Zeiun the Loyal. I am assuming that's how you pronounce that. I'm not 100% sure. But he's a blocker. He's a 2-drop 5k blocker, and then permanent. If you have a Lord Slug card in your battle area, you can play him for free. So he's a free blocker, essentially. Which again, works really well with getting us the bond effect and all that kind of good stuff. As long as Wings in play, he's always free already. So just really good stuff. Alright, next up we have Adonic Warrior Angila. So he's a 3-drop or 3-cost, 1 green. He's 15k critical on auto bond 2 Slug Army. So as long as you have 2 Slug Army cards in your battle area, including himself, so you could have Wings and him. Whenever this card attacks, if your leader card Slug's Army, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it in the drop area. So again, he's critical, which is great, so he's restricting cards that they're drawing, and then every time he swings, he's getting value because they're having a pitch card. So there's going to be one of those cards they're really going to want to have to take care of, because he's going to eventually just start really like waging war on your opponent's hand if he keeps swinging, especially the fact that he only costs 2. And he has critical, so we put a Champa on him, we give him, plus 10k double strike, so he's a 25k double strike crit, which is really strong, especially for 2 energy. Alright, next up we've got Lord Slug, Agent of Destruction. So he's a 3-cost, 2 green, 20k. Auto, whenever you play this card, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it to the drop area, so he's just, essentially for 2 with Wings, we're making the discard a card, which is great. And he's got the Activate Maiden once per turn. For green, choose the 1 Slug's Army card from your hand with an energy cost of 3 or less other than Agent of Destruction, play it. So again, this is a really great effect. It's just for 1 energy, we're getting to play things. And how this works with the Wings is Wings reduces the cards in our hand. So if ever there was a Slug's Army card that costs 4, with Wings, now it becomes 3, so we can pay 1 energy and play it off of the Agent of Destruction, which is really, really strong. Just being able to cheat guys into the board into play really quickly is always really effective and efficient. Alright, next up we've got 4 Infernal Villainy Cell. This is just like a pseudo super combo, pay 1 plus 10k, draw a card. Great defense, great offense, however you want to do it. It's green, we can charge it, just good stuff in general. Alright, next up we've got Lord Slug Young again. So he is our 4-drop, he costs 2 green spec, he's 20k, auto, bond 2, Slug's Army. Whenever you play this card, if your leader card is a Slug's Army, choose up to 1 Slug's Army in your drop area with an energy cost of 3 or less and play it. Then choose up to 1 of your energy and switch it to active mode. So again, this is kind of that 4-drop we were talking about with Wings and Agent of Destruction. Because of Wings, he costs 3 now out of our hand, so with Agent of Destruction, we can just play him for 1 energy, and then he plays another guy. Or he puts a guy in our hand, excuse me. And he untaps energies and everything like that, so we're really kind of ramping up. So really how you want to do it is you want to go like, Agent of Destruction, play Young again, maybe play another Agent of Destruction, then play something else off of that. So we're getting a lot of cards out of our opponent's hands, we're really like swarming our board, all just really cool stuff. Alright, and then finally kind of our big bomb is Titanic Ambition, Lord Slug. So he's a 6-drop, or 6-cost, 2 green, he's got EX Evolve for 2 green, and then place 1 card in the drop area and evolve him off a Lord Slug with energy cost of 4 or more. So the Lord Slug that we just looked at, the Young again, he's got double strike and then auto, bond 3, it takes effect when you have 3 or more Slug's Army in play. Whenever you play this card, choose 3 cards from your opponent's hand and place them in the drop area. So again, this is just kind of finishing that hand destruction angle. Really forcing a lot of cards out of our hand, whether it's with Angel, it's with the Destruction King Lord Slug, it's with this Lord Slug, it's with our ability, our leader Lord Slug. We're just getting cards out of our hand, out of our opponent's hand all the time, which is just really good. We're eventually going to whittle them down, and we can start doing this like super early because it only costs 2 green to play it, and we can play it off this 4-drop, the Young again, which effectively for us just cost 1 green with the Agent of Destruction, and then whenever he comes into play, we untap an energy, so effectively he's free that way. And then for 2 energy, you just evolve into the Titanic Ambition Lord Slug. So we're able to just like dump our opponent's hand, which is really strong. Then finally for our battle cards, we have 3 Dark Temptation Towa. So she's Overwhelm 3. Whenever you play her using Overwhelm, if your leader card is green or yellow, choose your leader card against plus 5,000 power for the duration of the turn, and then your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it in the drop area. So again, this is just a free discard. Like as long as we have 3 cards in the drop, which is really easy with the deck, our leader's putting cards in the drop. We got other cards that are using effects to put cards in the drop. So it's really easy for us to just, for free, just play this, make them discard a card. Maybe we got that last card in their hand, we want to make them discard, or we're working our way up, we want to make them discard their entire hand. This can just really help us get up that chain of discarding cards. Alright, moving on to our extra cards, we've got two Father-Son Kamehameha. So this is just a 1-cost extra card. It's 1 green. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost larger than or equal to your opponent's amount of total energy and KO it. So what this is really strong against is cards that like to come into play like super cheap or get cheated into play. We're looking at things like the 8-drop Broly or 7-drop Broly is what comes to mind instantly. This is one of those cards that as long as it's on your turn you play this, you just kill it. Those don't have barriers, so they can't stop it. They can't bloodlust this. It just goes in, it kills it for 1 energy, which is really strong. It also kills things like the Big 8 Baby. You know, he costs 6. Usually they're getting him out on like turn 3, turn 4. Any of that kind of stuff. The Big Boo stuff, it comes out pretty cheap. You can just play this, kill it. As long as it doesn't have barrier and it costs more than what their energy is, you can kill it. So it's really strong. We're only running it a 2 of. You could include additional of these in the side if you felt it was necessary, but I think 2 of is just pretty fine, which is main deck. Alright, next up we've got 4 Shocking Death Ball, so this is our negate. It's a 1 green. It's got Sparking 5, so if we've got 5 cards in our drop, we can play this for free by taking a life. And then its effect is negate the attack, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 2 or less and KO it. So again, just good board removal. It's a negate, it's a potential free negate, it's cutting us, taking us life. So just really good all in all. It's probably the best green negate we have access to. Sacrifice is another option, which is similar. If your leader's Namekian, which Lord Slug is, you can just take a life instead of paying its energy cost. It just doesn't have the added effect of killing anything. So if maybe that's more preferential to you, if you're not worried about the sparking or something like that, you can play Sacrifice over the Shocking Death Ball. Sacrifice actually is a little cheaper than Shocking Death Ball, so that's another route you can go to if necessary. Alright, and then last we have 2 Preemptive Strike. So this is your counterplay cards, 2 green. If your leader card is green, and the battle card your opponent is playing has an energy cost of 4 or less, it's placed in its owner's drop area instead of being played. So let's say they're playing a bomb that costs like 4 or less, you play this card. That card never even comes into play, so it has no come into play effects or anything like that. So it's really good, you know, just disruption in general, just getting stuff out of play, preventing your opponent from really getting stuff. What this is really good at is after you have a turn where you just discard your opponent's hand down to like maybe nothing or maybe 1 or 2 cards, and then they're trying to like go aggressive or trying to rush to kind of get the game moving, you drop a Preemptive Strike whenever they play a card to try to get them back in the game. You can really just set them back. You know, for 2 energy, whatever they're playing down, you can just get rid of it. So again, it's really, really strong. Overall, I mean, Slug is an alright deck. Again, you know, as with all these budget decks, don't ever expect to take one of these decks and go all the way. You know, we saw that Lord Slug deck this weekend go really, really far. That deck had a lot more expensive cards in the deck than what we're building with our budget lists, but the general concept is really the same. So ways to upgrade this, obviously the first card would be Paragus Super Combo. If you can get those, slap those in there, and take out the Piccolo Super Combos, it's probably the best Super Combo in the game. Moving on from there, you've got things like you can add more Agent of Destruction Lord Slug, but really outside of that, there's not a whole lot that you really want to include that would really like jack up the price of the deck. Some cards you really need to watch out for when you're playing Lord Slug or any hand destruction in general is the Mercenary Tau, the card that was released in Destroyer Kings, which basically says once per turn, whenever you were to discard a card from your opponent's hand, you have to warp 3 cards out of your hand as part of that cost, which is really like taxing on you, so you don't want to do that more than often than you have to. So ways to get around that: Double Impact Krillin, which was released in the World Martial Arts Tournament. It's a 2-drop. It KOs battle card with barrier 2k or 2 cost or less. So that's a really good option if you ever need to get rid of any of the Taos or anything like that. I don't think it's necessary in the side. Generally, you're not going to see Taos main deck. You're always going to see them in the side. So if ever you get in a game, it might, you know, you win game 1, going into game 2, it might be safe just to go ahead and side in those Double Impact Krillins. You know, maybe you see that your opponent's not playing a lot of big battle cards or something, you can pull out the Family Kamehameha and, you know, play the double shots instead, or pull off the Preemptive Strikes and play that, you know, kind of mix around the deck depending how you want. Maybe you don't need to Awaken as fast, you know, pull those out, pull in the Krillins, and, you know, kind of deal with the Taos. Or maybe going into game 3, you know they're playing Tau, so now I'll pull in the Krillin. Kind of however you want to do it, but that's really one of those cards you really have to look out for. But I mean, other than that, there's not like a whole lot of things you necessarily have to look out for. You are a very aggressive deck. You're playing things pretty quickly. Your hand's going to stay relatively low, but you're going to ideally keep your opponent's hand even lower than that, which gives you a really good chance at taking over the game. So this deck, probably more so than the Trunks that we looked at last week, probably has a better shot at being a little bit more competitive at the local scene. Really just depending on how you play it and how you run into, again, if you run into people that are just like crazy about the Mercenary Tau, then you're probably going to have a bad time. But other than that, like I said, it's a pretty straightforward deck. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, guys, that is it, and we will see y'all next time.